Hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I am so glad to be here with you today. I am Teresa Ostman and you are listening to Wellness Wednesday on CHLY 101.7 FM. It's a brand new year. Yay, 2022 is going to be brighter and healthier than ever. I believe that, and I think most people are really ready for that. With that in mind, today's show, we are going to be talking to a couple of ladies who each do health and wellness. First up today is Justina Bailey. And I'm going to just read a little bit of her bio because it's quite amazing. She's a movement instructor for over 30 years and trained under the best of various fields of physiotherapists, Olympic coaches, and aging specialists. She's talented at seeing patterns of movement and specific needs of each participant. Classes with Justina include science-based moves, artistic flow, and humor. Well, that's just fabulous. Justina, welcome. Glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So obviously you do classes. You also do video and Zoom classes. So really falling into what we're experiencing right now.
Yes, I have to admit, I ran a successful space for about 10 years here in Victoria, and you can't recreate the same environment of a live class and the energy of the people that come, but online does provide people with a different experience. So some people really do enjoy the moments before a class when they can interact with others, and others it's not the same. They can't wait for live classes to begin, but sometimes we can't put our life on hold and just wait for the live classes. So the online is a great supplement because I can still see people and cue them individually, especially if I know them, if we have a history of classes. I know that they overuse that right knee and they hold their breath for too long and that pinches their neck. And so the live classes on Zoom can give us a little bit of that. But even if you do miss the experience of the social setting, you can make up for a portion of it on Zoom.
Well, thank goodness for Zoom. We've been recording this show via Zoom for, oh gosh, it's going on 2 years now. And we're so grateful for that opportunity because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do the show at all. And the worst thing I think is to cancel a health and wellness show during a health pandemic. So we're really grateful the fact that you've been able to do that, to supplement when you can't do your classes in person, to have Zoom and to have the video and on demand. And of course, that also makes your classes available island-wide, not just in Victoria.
Yes, and yeah, it's true. So you can be anywhere and watch classes. So it's been very nice with clients that have family and friends out east and always say, I wish you could take classes with me with Justina. So now they invite them and we get to meet the sisters or the mothers or the uncles on a class. And the nice thing too is that people that do come to live classes that always say, that's a really great class. They can do a supplement or they want to learn more. So we have some workshops online. Everything feeds together. You can do a stretch workout and in live class and then watch a Pilates and still get the similar concepts because 1 week will cover the idea of maybe a shoulder that doesn't move so well and how to get some tricks into it. So in a Pilates class, we'll apply that to a side plank or how they put their hand behind their head before they do a sit up. And in a stretching class, we'll do how they breathe and reach from the back and stretch as opposed to just leaning forward into the neck. So the online works with the videos, the Zoom, the live classes when we can have them. And it is said that's going to be the future of our industry is no studio will be completely, no, I shouldn't say no studio. The mainstream will not be all live and all online. It will actually be a hybrid combination of both. And then you can watch a video and see if you want to make the time to go see an instructor.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I think back to when I did aerobics back in the dark ages, where it was no pain, no gain, and jumping, and I think about it now and it's kind of scary. But often it was so fast that I didn't really get to learn the moves or even figure out how to do them properly, and to be able to watch the class afterwards, a tape of it, it probably would have helped me.
I am curious about that. Sometimes I think some of us just follow along. We can't feel, and we're so concerned exactly when it's fast as can we do that beat, and we're thinking ahead. Um, Sometimes that's an issue where, I mean, I do it too when I'm
Yeah.
teaching. I can't focus on me and the participants at the same time. It's too much. You've got the music, the cueing, the what's that person doing over there? Why is she doing that? How can I help her in a group setting? So you can't think of yourself. And usually participants, when they're new at it, they're busy trying to figure themselves out. And what's she going? What's she going on? What's she trying to say? Where is my arm? She just asked me where my arm is. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel it.
Yeah. So
Um,
it would be, for me, it would be nice to actually sometimes go back and hear it again when I'm not busy trying to get my leg around the back of my neck or something silly like that. Like, how
and
is that
that's
supposed
true.
to actually
Some
be done?
some people like to watch
Justine,
the repetition and do it
yeah,
again and again.
yeah. Justine, I really want to ask about the misconception that we have to age and have to slow down and do less.
Oh,
I
that
know
is
this is
such a
one of your
myth.
favorite issues. I know most of people feel that they get to a certain age is that they shouldn't run anymore. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. And that's just not true at all.
No, actually, there's been some great studies that have gone on for 10 and 20 years that were released just during pre-COVID and during COVID. So running, well, let's be honest, not everyone can keep running,
No.
but I think a lot of that is they weren't good runners anyways. They
Right.
weren't controlling ground forces. They weren't breathing. They weren't shifting their body correctly left to right. And so the wear and tear of bad running habits just degenerated their body faster. So it's not that running is bad for you, it's running badly is really bad for you.
Well, and that makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
some people's bodies are built for it, some people's are not. There is there is a scientific method to how you measure the limbs to know what sports some people are kinetically
Oh.
and naturally good at. The Chinese are very, very good at that. They from an elementary age, they measure your limbs and they put you to that direction. So the
Well,
only
that makes
disadvantage of
that makes so much sense.
the only
And
disadvantage is what if you're good, you're built for basketball, but you don't want to play it. You want to do
well,
soccer.
I don't have children, but my sister has, and my niece and nephew. My nephew was really good in squash, and I said to my sister, why don't you direct him towards something that maybe he could make a living at, like squash, not so much. And he also played baseball, and I said, baseball's better. Direct him to baseball. But as you say, you're not always good at everything. There is kind of
No,
something that's a better suited for your body type.
that's true. And then how we manage, so I've been teaching this over 30 years, and I've been told I'm relatively good in my field, and we call each other at a certain caliber. So my colleagues call me a high caliber instructor. Um, I'm not going to say I'm perfect because there's a lot of things I need to fix in, but I get things really well, and work quite hard at transferring that knowledge and the understanding. But one of the ones that surprised me was I got into this industry. It was about muscles. It was always about the muscle, how you turn on the leg muscle, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the bum. But now we know that muscles are just such a small part of our systems, and they're the last part actually that how your muscles are responding is actually what you're doing to the inside, how you're moving the air inside, how you're moving the liquid.
Ah,
And I think I was 18 when I first got into fitness. If you had told me that, I would have thought you were a flake.
yes.
I would have, there is no way I think I would have hung on to this if that's how we started. But that was just the thinking back then is you turn on muscles, you activate muscles, you work those muscles, and then you stretch them. Now we know you can't really stretch a muscle. One, that's not what it's designed to do, because a muscle is supposed to really quickly contract. It's supposed to do things. It's supposed to create force. So if you're stretching muscles, you're asking it to do the very thing it was designed to do. And that muscle's contraction, the turning on
Right.
and turning off, is mainly controlled by your nervous system, your brain. So the autonomic nervous system is usually the issue. If you have a constant muscle that's always on and always tense, and people want to feel they need to stretch it, they don't need to stretch it. because it's protecting you for some reason. It's another part of your body isn't activating. It's become a slave to this muscle. This muscle is triggered either, like I said, something with your autonomic nervous system, or the bone just isn't in the right place for it to turn off, because muscles should turn on, turn off. They
Oh,
love to
right.
play. They're teeter-totters. They feed off each other. They're live, and they take signals and they partner. You can't just work one in isolation. But if one is in constant tension, we know we've got issues. Um, and so as we age, I think this idea of turning on, so if you've got one that's really active and one that's inactive, the inactive one has become a slave to something somewhere. And so you figure out what that is. And then you have to figure out how to inhibit it, how to turn it off, how to get the brain to stop firing it. But why is it firing again? Autonomic, or just the position you're standing in or that you keep moving into. And so those are big things. So most of what we've discovered nowadays isn't about turn on more muscles, because that little one over here that's inactive is losing its connection to the brain. The brain is also losing
Right.
its connection to it. So you just can't say turn on little weak muscle. Again, it's a slave to something else. So we have to figure out how to downregulate, how to turn off this other one, how to reposition the body, how to sense it. Then the other ones start, then you build sense on the
Right.
other one. So aging, I guess, I don't want to say just aging, but the more you get to be on the planet and live with gravity, it's less about activating things and more about deactivating things so you can live more fully. People are getting pulled into this little
Oh,
realm, and that's what aging is. It's this years of the same thing over and over and over
yeah.
again. It's not this exploration of new places to be in your body, new feelings, new questions. You know, I was really insulted a few years ago when I could feel something changing in my body and I couldn't understand it. If I know these things and my colleagues come to me for training, why can't I turn on, example, it's a serratus anterior, a muscle under the arm that helps with many things in the shoulder blade. And I thought, why can't I activate this? Why am I getting this shoulder problem that everyone else has? But I'm doing these exercises every single day to prevent it. Why is it becoming my problem? It's quite confusing. And go to specialists that would say you just have to do this for the muscle. I do this every day. I do this 5 times a day and I can't feel it. It's not alive anymore. And to learn that this is a natural state of the human body. But we don't learn this in our industry. We don't learn this in our culture.
Right.
Um, like yoga, Janet Oliver is from the States, and she's a beautiful presenter on reflexes and how as we age, these things start to come back into our bodies or leave our bodies as we age. And it's just the natural state. So if you haven't learned to deal with gravity and to really keep a heightened awareness of what's going on, you lose these senses, and again the window becomes smaller. You don't know that you lost this.
Right.
You don't know that you lost
Yeah.
30 degrees of range of motion. um, and so it was
And you
an
accept it, I
unbelievable.
think. I think people
Yeah.
accept it and maybe even expect it.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself about those big muscles, right? And how everyone says, oh, you got to use the big muscles because that's going to make you burn more calories. And then you have to stretch those big muscles. And yet there's that other kind of school of thought that say you've got to do lots of different kinds of exercises because otherwise you're only concentrating a certain type of muscle because every exercise uses different muscles, right? And that's why you've got
Yep.
to do a wide variety of things.
That's true. Like the cross training. What's the expression is, if you're using your large muscles are meant for movement and the little muscles are meant for posture. And so they should all feed on each other. But a lot of times people get stuck in like their back tightens. And so they're using their breathing muscles as postural muscles. And then they're trying to do their sports or a new activity and they can't, because they can't, it goes back to that down regulating. They can't turn off the back muscles from firing 110%. So they get hurt when they play squash. They get hurt when they play pickleball. They always pull their shoulder. Their
Yeah.
back always tweaks. And then you just said it, they accept it.
Yeah.
And it's, yes, this will happen if this is your pattern of how you deal with gravity and movement and breath. Oh my goodness, it always comes back down to breath. You will get hurt when you try these things because they've just gone into a pattern of movement. So cross training is supposed to keep you alive. so many realms. But if you've lost your sense on that, your back is really tight and a sense of who you are in space, you're those poor people that just get hurt with everything they try.
Yeah.
They tear muscles, they pull ligaments.
Do you find though that most people don't go gradually into anything? They go and do it for 2 hours straight and they haven't done it in months or years or ever. And suddenly they expect their body to do 2 hours of something. I mean, that's really
Definitely. I mean,
lunacy.
I'm guilty of it too if I like something. But COVID was a big one. I was surprised at how many people got shin splints,
Yeah.
sprained ankles because they decided to start walking more or running, and they haven't been walking. Yes, they might do a few things, but they were suddenly walking more. Yeah, the shin splints, the amount of emails I got of people with shin splints because they used to, when they were 10 years old, they used to
Right.
run
Yeah.
across the soccer
Yeah.
field
Yeah.
or run home from school, but we haven't been practicing. It's the habits. We have not been practicing. So they got they got injured. Oh, the cycling, they didn't know how to adjust their bike. We're not as juicy as we once were in our bodies. We haven't been practicing.
Yeah.
So the bike became a new issue because so much pressure was put on the wrists as they pushed
Yeah.
into the handlebars, or their bike seat wasn't right, or they keep tilting to one side and so one hip got jammed up. There was lots of injuries there. The walking, the backs got tight because they weren't walking properly. They were walking with one hip lower than the other.
Yeah.
They didn't actually move their body. They swung their arms in the socket to quote unquote burn calories.
Yes.
But all
Yes.
that did was create more wear and tear within the shoulder joint. Whereas the body's naturally designed to do these twists and turns and right, left, and the knee's supposed to release energy. It really is a cool banter to watch. But if you're stuck with too much right leg, right weighted, um, your neck is tight on one side and you keep turning and your arms just swing in the socket, you don't get that reciprocal inhibition from one side to the other, the altering. Uh,
So, what do you suggest? What do you suggest we do? Some of us who maybe have not been as active as we were when we were younger, or maybe have never really been active, or we want to try something new. What can we try? How
that,
can we kind of start on that path?
that is a great question. I think personally, I think walking is really important as a human. Like we really are meant to move. I don't think many of us walk well. We'll be quite honest with us. There's a saying that all human bodies will start to lean to the right. They're designed to it because our liver is over here and you're trying to take the pressure off your heart. Apparently, I've never been a mother, but children are designed to want to tip to the right to feed from their breast from the get-go.
Oh,
So we have these inclinations, which I think this is hard to let people absorb because we think these things are machines. They should just do whatever we ask them to. But they found ways of coping. So if you haven't done anything for a while, I think it's really important to start gradually. But there's also another thing. I have a family member who likes to just sit all day reading books and watching movies. So she has trained her body to sit for 18 hours a day with no movement. So
yeah.
she feels like she'll say, "Oh, today I didn't feel like doing much, so I listened to my body," which I find kind of cute because she's trained it to sit all day. So it's going to ask for more sitting each
Right.
day. So that one's a tricky question for me, or someone who's really tight in their hip flexors and loves to do something that makes their hip flexors tighter. And it just makes me cringe. And then I say, my body likes this position. Well, no, your body is orientated towards it. You're losing control in other things. So we get stuck in those patterns. So I think for someone that hasn't worked out for a while or exercised or got off the Netflix binge for maybe almost 2 years,
Yeah.
do move. I think it's important not to always walk with people. I really like the idea of understanding what are you feeling, how are you breathing, how are you with nature, being outside, doing something with the kids or the grandkids that if we can now. But as you said, start slow. It doesn't have to be for 2 hours. The hikes that people go on and they get stuck at the other end because they hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Those things. But
Or
I think
I go out on a lot of hikes and with different people, and I'll always say, oh, this is going to be a 3-hour hike. It's fairly challenging. Are you going to be okay? Is that kind of where you think your level's at? Oh yes, and then half an hour in, they're complaining and this and that, and I'll kind of gently ask again, and I'll go, well, I did a 10-kilometer hike 10 years ago. I should be able to climb this mountain. It's like,
I think that's the other end of the spectrum for those that sit 18 hours a day, is those of us who it's who we want to be. It's who we think we still are. And that's a big one in our industry, is people who we actually see we see people differently than how they see themselves. The person who sees them as the athlete and the intermediate and advanced person, they always sign up for the harder things. Yes, I can do this 3-hour hike, although they are the ones that need the beginner or intro or gentle. And then you have the other people that keep taking the gentle beginner intro classes, which actually need the challenge. So if you were to make a class, a lot of people don't pick the level they actually need. They pick who they think they are, not always who they are at that moment. And I have to tell you, these exciting studies that came out pre-COVID and after we went into quarantine, was that people who keep their exercises gentle, don't stimulate, don't get the heart going, because the brain needs resources. It's going to suck them from your body. It needs the nutrients, it needs your lungs to work. So the person who never challenges cardiovascular, which is 2 parts, remember, your heart has to pump, that's the cardio, and your vascular pulls it from the heart. So you need to move limbs for the vascular part, and you need to pump the heart and challenge it. I think a lot of times when people age, they either push too hard or don't challenge themselves enough. And so they become weaker, not because they age, but because they have not been doing things enough. And so it's quite interesting to see around the world, the study. I wish I could pull it out for you. I'll try to send you the link to put in your show notes if you like. But the people that actually gave themselves challenge didn't age like the rest of the population. That's the interesting thing.
It's really fascinating to me listening to this when you're saying that the brain needs the exercise. I never thought of that before. I always thought it was kind of the body, but it makes complete sense, because we really do age. A lot of it's from the brain.
Yeah, that's so true. And the brain controls all. The brain is king.
Yeah.
Well, the lungs are first. The lungs are king.
But
then
but if you lose your brain, right? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I lose my brain, I've pretty well lost life. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, technically that's brain dead, right?
Yeah. And if exercising and keeping active can help my body from deteriorating and losing mobility, it also helps my brain. I mean, then it's a no-brainer to do it, right?
That's what, well, everyone's concerned about the neuroplasticity, but I think some people aren't aware of the fact that neuroplasticity, as a specialist once said on CBC radio a couple of years ago, is, playing Sudoku makes you good at Sudoku, but you need to move your body while you're challenged with something else. That is neuroplasticity, making these new pathways, keeping things alive. So that's why dancing is good, is because you're moving. You have another person you have to be aware of. Right. It's steps, it's memory, it's movement. You have to be aware of a room, and you're not just sitting in one. That's the one that, don't get me wrong, I am not a fanatic. I mean, I do not go to the gym and pump weight and do my aerobics. I used to love that. I don't do it the same anymore, because I see the damage people do from overuse. And that was my thing as an instructor. I am not going to participate in every single class 100%, because I want my knees. I want my own knees. I want my own hips. I want my own shoulders. I want my own teeth, as long as I can. And not need that, especially now, like, oh my gosh, the poor people that can't get these elective surgeries, although they need them. Their knees, not moving because of a knee that was worn out, which breaks my heart, because so many people don't realize the knees and hips are getting worn down because the capsules are getting too tight. These muscles are too active, as we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't need the knee to be operated on. They need the rib to release the tension. They need the quad and the hip to release the tension so that they can lubricate the joint, and the tissues actually slide across each. They're truly moving. They're truly moving, not limping.
So what are some of the suggestions? You said, had said to me
Walking.
earlier, experiments rather than exercise. So what are some of the experiments that people can try to see if that helps, maybe with what they think is tight muscles, or
I guess so. One of the big ones is breathing, how you manage your air. I was taught by my instructors 20 years ago, never teach breathing exercises, because we have so many bad habits that all they do is bring their bad habits and layer it on what they think you're asking to do. So that is a big one. I don't teach breathing online. There are people who do. Postural Restoration Institute has a great 8-week free course on how to breathe well and to feel it and to manage it. But I would tell people, breathe like in through the nose, out through the mouth. Do they feel body parts moving is one part. Do you fake it? So sometimes just belly breathing is a big misconception, because if your belly is the only thing moving in and out, it means your chest isn't expanding, and you need your chest to expand. You need your pelvis to expand. You need your ankles and your head to expand as you inhale. They need to move. That's the only way to decompress joints. And exhale. So when we do our stretch workouts or our gentle movement classes, a lot of it is really try to feel if you can. So if you close down your right rib or sink into your right side, it pushes, if you can think of a water balloon, it pushes the air to the left. Your body then wants to move to that left. So if we're moving side to side, just gently, the breathing, the weight shift, all of that, because as you shift your weight onto one leg, it starts to move you over. You can do that sitting in your chair. Then you start to add on, think of adding on the layers of your arms. I mean, it always comes back to this, always. It does not matter how good you are, because even the best baseball player in the world having trouble with his throwing arm is going to come back to what is he doing in his lungs? Can he move that air out of his right lung in order to talk? Like, he's got to be able to shift it to get that arm to move around the lung. So that's one of the things I ask people to experiment with, is your breathing. And it doesn't matter how good you think you have it. Always question what you're feeling, resense, because as you reposition your body, you wake up new senses, you wake up new signals. The other one is does your flesh move? Like, it's designed one layer move over the other. Probably the biggest question, or the biggest thing I see with especially women with larger female hips, is their knees really degenerate faster. They have a lot of pain in it. One side hurts, and so then what happens, they start to move over to the other one, but the other one wasn't working well, so that one hurts really fast. So if the other one took 20 years to hurt, the other one's going to take 4 years to hurt, we'll say, because it wasn't using the weight the same way. So a lot of times, if I can touch people's knees and ask them, do you feel that your bones can actually move? Are you moving layers, or is everything just seizing up, or a big pile of mush? Because if it's a big pile of mush, you're just locking joints. You're moving with your ligaments, not with your muscles. So how does your flesh move around you? Again, if I'd heard this 30 years ago when I got into this, it's too woo-woo. I came to work out my bum and to get my abs on.
Yeah.
But if you can't, I mean, I was so shocked when I realized, if you can't breathe, you cannot do ab work. You can't manage your body. You can't add weights. You're just making a compensation, because all of your muscles are designed. This is wild. All of your muscles are designed to either pull air in your body or push it out. That's a main reason. Second is heat. Third is movement. Like, we put so much value on muscles, but it's like the last stage of all these beautiful systems. So the shifting, and then another one, I guess, I'm going to say core work, because everyone comes back to the core. A great example is, if you're sitting, is notice your sit bones. And this can be, you can do an hour of just the sitting and sit bones and the hip bones. But to really feel these little sit bones are two holes. They're kind of cool. And what I heard this expression, you couldn't go on a plane. You would pop actually if you didn't have these two little holes at your sit bones. So do you sit on them evenly? Do you think they're separated from each other the same amount? Because they provide a lot of torsion on the pubic bone too in the back, the SI joints. But do you even, so tight jointed people tend to be really tight in their joints and they push down into the world and they don't expand very well. Loose jointed people tend to float on their joints and they can't, they inhale a lot and I'm one of those people. They have all this air in them, but they don't push it out. They don't feel compressive forces and they don't manage very well. So they move too much because their body can't feel stable. So trying to get everyone on whether you're loose or tight jointed, is to feel you actually plant the sit bones down into the chair and breathe, because your hip sockets are huge receptors of where you are in the world, how you feel, how you breathe. Because if you cannot make your pelvis open and close, you don't breathe well. You don't manage your muscles very well, which again, the last stage of everything. So just even sitting with those sit bones and how do you breathe? Some people start to realize they can't. They're holding their breath, they're pinching their back, they're gasping. They have to, now if you're a loose jointed person, you're probably just going to let that go so that you can breathe again. If you're a tight jointed person, you might actually be compressing so hard. Now you've got faking mechanisms. So the tight jointed person with lots of muscle tissue that they're living off of, will have to actually ease off and see if they can breathe into their back. Those are big ones. And then we try to feel that when you're squatting. So then the next step is stand up, put your hands on your butt cheeks, feel your sit bones. And as you do a little squat, don't go very far, but like you're going to sit down into a chair. Can you push those sit bones into your hands and feel? Nobody can make you turn those on. It's you, it's a sense of you inside of you. And that is what you build all of your squats on, your leg exercises, you're walking, you're left to right, you're hiking. Those are huge
well, even as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm trying, to feel my sit bones and immediately my posture got better.
I could see you. Now put your hands on your waist, put your hands around your waist, and then just feel the difference between hanging out on your chair and then pushing down.
Yeah.
And what do you notice?
I've noticed that my posture is better. I feel straighter. It feels better. It feels better on all parts of my body.
But can you feel that your I'll say your core or your abs or your torso felt stronger?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And that, I wonder if you're more loose jointed. I mean, I can only see from here up, but I'm going to guess you're more loose jointed than tight jointed, probably some globally loose with some tight pockets is my guess.
Yeah.
Just by watching your head shoulders.
So fascinated, Justina. So fascinated.
I know. I love this. This never gets boring.
And we could go on and on and on. Well, we'll have to have you on again
I would love that.
and explore this further. I want to leave the audience with information on where they can find out more about your classes and the video on demand and the Zoom classes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
So what's the best way to contact you, to reach out and to explore more options?
If I would assume most people that are listening to this probably have a computer that they access easily. So studiofitnessvictoria.com is the website, and that lists the live classes that I rent from other studios. So trying to keep other gyms going, I'm big on community, helping each other out. That's even great. When it's hard for some of us to knit it through. So I do organize classes in some dance studios just to keep the things pumping. And then I also do classes on Zoom. So that's listed there, live classes where I have 3 28-inch screens and 2 laptops. And so my place is covered. I have a whole wall of computers so I can see each person in about a 6-inch box, 8-inch box. So I can still see how you're moving. Some people can turn the cameras off if they want. And then we have a video library, which actually they all feed off of these same ideas. There is no exception. I can't help but to put that learning into all the classes. I wish I had that when I was 20 doing those. And I also community center classes. We list those because I do from down in Oak Bay up to Sydney. We have have different community center classes. So that's all at studiofitnessvictoria.com. And it's okay to call me as well at 250-880-9909 for those that aren't too keen on the internet process.
Great. That's great, Justina. Thank you so much. I think everybody got a gleam of information out of it that they can use right away, and that's really important. And better health for everybody, and work on wellness. Thank you, Justina. We appreciate you being here. Justina is with Studio Fitness in Victoria, and studiofitnessvictoria.com is her website. We are now going to go on to my favorite song, Good Morning Sunshine by Richie Fresh. When we come back, I am going to be speaking with Linda Edwards from the Healing Nest, and you're going to find out all about the harmonic egg and how it can help with health and wellness. Enjoy.